Good morning, YouTube. This is Boxingwave. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You guys see the title of the video, okay? I just been doing some thinking. You know, we are going into a new year. Showtime is done. Showtime and Paramount is done with boxing. Saudi Arabia is now a powerhouse in boxing. We have a card next week with a bunch of fighters that we would never expect to be on the same card. All right, Deontay Wilder, Joshua, Joseph Parker, Dimitri Bivol, and more are going to be on the same card fighting next weekend in Saudi Arabia. Okay. And going into the new year, you know, going into 2024, you know, I was thinking after this past couple of weekends, look at what happened at 135. Look at what's happening at 140, at 126. You have these divisions where, you know, there's no unifications happening at the moment. The belts are broken up at 140, at 135. You know, Josh Taylor was the former undisputed champ at 140. And we know that Devin Haney just moved up from 135. He's also former 135 undisputed champion. So now that the belts are broken up in those two divisions, and we know that a lot of those fighters, some of them moved up like Teo and Devin, and there's still a lot of fighters at 135, some that's moved up from 130. And, you know, I was thinking, tournament. We need more tournaments. I read a comment, and I know people have been battling on Twitter right now, again, about Andre Ward and his recent comments with Canelo Alvarez. You know, and it always comes back around because every now and then Andre Ward mentions Canelo. You know, I think he's like poking the bear. Like I think he likes to mention Canelo's name every now and then because I think that's the only fight that he would consider returning to boxing for. You know, I've talked about it before in the past, but he likes to dig at Canelo every now and then. And then it gets the boxing fans to start debating on whether or not Ward would be able to beat him, or what if Ward fought him in his prime. And it goes back into that debate every single time, right? Then some other people just be like, they're talking less about the fight, and they're talking about Ward hating on Canelo, jealous of Canelo, and how Canelo was accomplished a lot more in less time and made a lot more money. So people go into that thing, right? But, you know, I read a comment, and it kind of also influenced me to talk about this. And I've said this before on the channel about this whole tournament thing. I read a comment, and it was related to Andre Ward, saying that, like, him winning the Super 6 tournament is like, everybody likes to throw that in your face. Like, he was trying to belittle the fact that he won that tournament. And I think that's wrong. You know, I think winning a tournament when the top competitors, not every single one of them was in that tournament, but most of them were. And a lot of those fighters that was involved in the super middleweight division and the Super 6 tournament, they went on to do great things. They had great careers. You know, many of them became champions, won big fights, became superstars. So I think it was a big deal that Ward won that tournament, you know? And I don't want to belittle that. And I don't want to belittle the other fighters that won tournaments like Alexander Usyk, Josh Taylor, you know, and so many other fighters that's won the World Boxing Super Series. I personally believe, and I've said this, tournaments are one of the most prestigious things in boxing, in my opinion, simply because you don't have the options to choose who you fight next. You are advancing after every win to the next round. And depending on where you're selected, yes, it can work in your favor. But if it's randomly picked, like the rounds, like if you put 8 fighters and you randomly select where each fighter is placed in that first round, to advance to the second round once they win, it makes things a lot more interesting. I think it's entertaining. I think it gets people talking. It's not the typical pick who you want to fight next. You know what I mean? You have, even as a world champion, you have the option to face who you want to face. If you have a big enough name, you can still cherry pick as a champion. We know this. And we can also make an argument that certain people's run to undisputed are much better or much tougher than others. I mean, we've had a lot of undisputed champions in recent years, right? We had so many of them, but we can all debate on whose run to undisputed was the most challenging or the most entertaining, or, you know, whatever. Some people were able to do it with a couple of fights or maybe one fight. And some fighters had to like collect every single belt to get there, you know? So with that being said, I think the tournament thing should happen, and think we should bring it back. And I say that because being that Saudi is a heavy hitter now, and they were able to bring this mega card next week with the heavyweights, right? It goes to show that once they get involved in a fight card, they tend to make everyone happy when it comes to the purses. Now, I also think it's dangerous because I know that a lot of these fights are not realistic outside of Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to expect this to happen on British soil or American soil or elsewhere, you know. It's not going to happen everywhere else, you know, and I think that's the one downfall of this kind of card here. You know, they have the money to just make everyone happy. It doesn't matter what promoter you are or what network you fight on. They were willing to bring all of these guys that had problems and issues with each other. They would bring them together in order to make things happen. And it goes to show that when it comes to everything, it's always about the money at the everyday. At the end of the day, everybody wants to make it about all of these other things. When money is presented, people will agree to do anything most of the time, you know. And everyone wants to make it seem like they want to bring a race into the equation. They want to make it about politics and how this guy doesn't work with this guy, so the fight won't happen. Or this fighter works on this network exclusively. When money is involved and the money is right, everyone will agree to everything to work together. Easily. And look how easy they were able to make this card. So when I think of lightweight and super lightweight, right, 140 and 135 specifically, these divisions now are open, right? There's not one top dog. There's guys that we can sit here and have the conversation on who's the best or who had the best wins, but it's totally open. It's not like when Josh Taylor was a champion. You know what I mean? It's not like when Devin Haney became undisputed. There's still a lot of unanswered questions with these two divisions. We don't know who's the best. And if the Saudis wanted to get involved, because I don't believe it would happen. I would love it to happen in Vegas or New York or, you know, in London or whatever. I would love it to have it happen anywhere. But the Saudis seem to be the top dogs right now. They're the ones that's willing to make any fight happen. And if that's the case, these divisions like 135, where you have Tank, Shakur, you know, Keyshawn Davis, Frank Martin, William Cepeda, all of these fighters that are in the runnings, you know, Lomachenko's still out there, George Kambosos, all of these guys are taking other fights that are good fights, but they're not the exact fights we want to see. You know, how long have we wanted to see Loma against Tank? How long have we been wanting to see even Shakur and Tank now? You know, I mean, or Shakur against Loma, or Shakur, or, you know, or even with Tio and Devin, who recently moved up. It seems like these fighters are looking to beat the common opponent better instead of facing each other. And it's been a pattern like this for years. And and obviously if you have a tournament setting, the purses are definitely going to still be a factor. I'm not saying everyone needs to get paid equally. But what I am saying is that make everyone happy to where they are willing to sign up to take place in a tournament. That's the only way that we can find out who's the best, instead of just waiting years and years of building to the next fight. It's like 140 right now. I believe that Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, based on their last performances and beating the most recent top two guys in 140, who was Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis, being that they got wins over those two now, it's safe to assume that those two should be the top ranking guys at 140, right? But if they don't fight each other and they don't fight some of the other champions or some of the other top dogs, there's no way to really tell. And plus, all of these guys' styles are different. Haney is different from Tio. Tio is different from Matias. I don't know if all of these guys were to come out undefeated if they were to fight everyone. You know, I mean, you might have some fighters there that will take a loss, but they may take one loss but beat everybody else. And the one fighter that they lost to might take a loss to someone that opponent that they beat someone else. It's like, you know what I mean? Let's get rid of the triangle effect. Let's just say that if all of these guys actually fought each other, some of them will take a loss because the styles, they're not beneficial for you and your style. Like, I think Matias he's the boogeyman of the division. Not saying that everyone is ducking him, not saying that. But as far as his style, it's very hard to call where that fight goes with anyone, with Tio and with Devin Haney, because unlike everyone else, his volume is insane. You know what I mean? It's like what we saw this weekend with Ramirez and Espinoza. I didn't look into Espinoza before the fight, but maybe if I did, I would have noticed that this guy's volume is insane. You know what I mean? Maybe I would have picked him. Maybe I would have threw a little bit of cash on him. I didn't. But it's like when you deal with a super pressure fighter like a Subriel Matias, it's very hard to call. Doesn't matter how good of a boxer you are like Haney or Tio, or how much power you have like Tio. What if you can't knock him out? How do you fare in the second half of this fight? But we won't know that unless everybody fights each other, you know? And I think that divisions like 135, like 140, like 126 should have tournaments. 126, when's the last time they had a unification down there? Everyone comes up, takes a fight, wins a title, and then moves up to 130, you know? If you have a tournament when everyone is involved, put Shakur in there, put Loma there, put Tank in there, you know, put Cambosos in there, put, you know, Keyshawn or whoever, you know, Frank Martin, all those guys, William Cepeda. You put the top 8 guys, including the champions in the tournament. That's the only way we can know who's really the best. And there'll still be fights that wouldn't take place, right? Because you might get eliminated in the first round to the style that fits worse for you. But this is why tournaments are so prestigious to me, more than titles, in my opinion, more than titles, because you don't know who's next. It's random. You don't have the option to cherry pick. You don't have the option to join a division when it's at its weakest. You don't have those options. You have to fight the very best. And the very best may not be in an 8-man tournament. It may not be, but it would answer some questions. It would be better than just winning a title or multiple titles. So now you got to face everybody, you know? So I just think moving forward into 2024, I would like to bring back tournaments. I know financially, some of the World Boxing Super Series didn't work. All right, I know that some of those cards had empty arenas. I remember some of the fighters complaining about receiving their purses late. So I understand that from a financial standpoint, it didn't work well. But I also believe that make the business work, make it realistic, but make them promote them as big events, and they can possibly do a better job, especially if they include some of the stars. I know a lot of those guys in the tournaments at that time didn't have big names yet. They have bigger names now. I think it's important to try to get a tournament while the stars are in there. And even if Saudi is the only place that can do it, which I believe they are, do it. Make everybody happy. And I think the fans will love it. I think the fighters will benefit from it because they'll have their opportunity to be great and they'll have the opportunity to make a lot of money. And I think everybody will be happy, and I think everybody will work with each other, you know, and then throw the titles in there. And the winner, you know, hopefully with all the champions at the division at the time, hopefully they're all entered there. If not, you know, at least the top guys. Like, I don't think Rolly is a top fighter at 140 by any means. You can make an argument that he's not even top 20. But he found a way, you know, the WBA found another way to scam it and get him to fight for a belt. And I think that's just a setup up to feed him to someone else out there, you know. But we'll talk more about that later. But anyway, just a thought. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think the timing is perfect. I think it's ripe. I think we have, Saudi has proven that they have the money to make everyone happy and make everyone work together. So instead of just giving them their own individual cards where we get big fights and just paying individual main events, let's pay fighters that's in the division, guys that are not getting huge purses, mix them in with some of the stars and see who really is the best. I don't believe that anyone from 135 needs to fight anyone from 140 right now, unless they plan on, the guys at 135 are planning to move up to campaign at 140. As I said in the last couple of videos with Devin Haney, everyone at 140 have other ops out there at 140. We don't need anyone to get dragged down, and we don't need anyone to be forced up. There's enough names in each division to show who's the best by having them face off against each other. You know what I mean? We don't need that. I think other divisions like 168, 175, I don't really include those right now because you have champions that are unified there. And it's like 175. There's only one fight, in my opinion, that absolutely needs to happen. And that's Better BF against Bivol. And then at 168, Canelo's already undisputed. Most of us want to see the Benavidez fight. Unless you take all of the non-champions and get them to face each other. But then the champions should be in it too, because then they would just be stuck fighting Mandos, who would probably most likely be in that tournament as well. So I think there's divisions like 135, 140 that are definitely tournament ready. You know, and if someone is willing to make it work out for everyone, we can move forward in the right direction. Not just having good fights, but good cards and back-to-back tough fights, you know, where it'll be justified because they'll be getting paid for it. I see fans always defending, you know, their favorite fighters by saying, oh, he deserves a tune-up because he just had this fight, or they're just coming off these two tough fights. Well, yeah, you can have a tough. I think it's warranted to have a tough schedule if you are fighting. If you're only fighting once or twice a year, you should have a tough schedule if you are a champion, because that's what champions do. There can only be 4 major champions at the most. So if you're unified, you should be definitely fighting the best. And if you're getting paid a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars, you should be fighting the best along with the champions. So I think if we move forward, moving forward in the right direction, that includes making some tournaments. Let's not belittle the past tournament winners, because those are, outside, Ward, outside of Lucien Boutte, everybody else was in that tournament at that time. A lot of those guys were undefeated, and they moved on to become champions and defended their titles time and time again. Some of those guys. All right, so I don't want to belittle. I love the World Boxing Super Series. It came and went, but Josh Taylor, Alexander Usyk, even Inoue, these guys, it's part of their legacy, and it's part of the reason why they will probably be Hall of Famers at some point. You know what I mean? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know it's kind of random, but we are going into a new year, and I expect some things to change and get better, and that's for everyone, and that's for all the promoters too. I think it could be beneficial for everyone, especially like the PBC. They're doing a new thing with Amazon. I don't know if they're gonna have another home for their platform other than Amazon Prime, but I think it's at a time now where you are charging us a lot of money, and in order to make that money up, you have to give us the best fights. And I'm talking about everyone. I mean, ESPN subscriptions gone up. DAZN has gone way up, and they charge us for pay-per-views when they were against it in the beginning. And the PBC has given us the largest amount of pay-per-views over the years. All right, and now we're probably gonna have a Amazon subscription fee for the non-pay-per-view events. So with that being said, the money is going, the price is going up, the pay-per-view prices are going up. Give us better quality fights, people will pay, and fans will be happy, and the fighters will be happy too, because they'll get paid more. All right, so let me know what you guys think. I'm out of here. Please subscribe to the channel. Have a good one. Peace.